So I've looked at the submissions that I received for the BMW postcards, and I wanted to provide a little bit of feedback so you guys can do your revisions and also show you some of the other assignments or submissions rather from your other classmates, so you can see what other people are doing as well, and also potentially the feedback from them may either spark ideas or somewhat apply to your pieces as well. So we're just going to go in alphabetical order in the four that I received. Um, there was a relatively common thing with a few of the submissions was using images that were not provided in the assignment. I specifically said to not use other images that were outside of what was provided. Generally, high-end clients like this will do this pretty frequently. They'll want like their official photographers or image suppliers, things like that, for their products going out. So there was that. So like with this one specifically, there's this image. While this image actually looks pretty decent, it looks pixelated because I don't have it, so it shows up as a little pixelated just to preview the image rather than sometimes in Illustrator the image just isn't included entirely. I wouldn't say it's hit or miss, but sometimes it's hit or miss when that happens because there's another sample that I don't have the images and they don't show at all, which is interesting. Anyway, so like this image in particular, the main image in the background here, and the JD Power image, while I understand, I actually think it looks pretty good, and I understand what you're trying to do here. It wasn't an included image, so I would stay away from using it. But again, I think I sort of get the idea. You have this sort of matching effect here going on with the two squares, which is actually pretty good. But again, I would stay away from using that, and I might see if you can find an image in the folder that would work with your layout. Now, just talking about the layout specifically for this one, I really like it. It looks very BMW. I like what you did with the graphic at the top to give yourself a little bit of a background for your font. I might even go a little bit bigger on this, play around with it. I would also potentially look at using a sans serif font rather than a serif font to go with sort of like the BMW look, and the same here if you're going to sort of try to recreate. My cat saying hello in the background there. If you're going to recreate the BMW text, I would take a look at some of the uses of that, either online or in print, and try to recreate that. Like I would go with a Helvetica again, like a sans serif font there, because they have their own specific BMW Helvetica, which I believe I mentioned in the video, the support video for the assignment. But I would change this and then even look at a sans serif font maybe for this one. But I like the sort of clean, very BMW-esque look you have for this. It's very sort of classically BMW. And then we have this one, which again, I would say using outside images, with the JD Power, I sort of see what you were going for with this one, and I don't think this one works as well, to be honest, with the JD Power. Just because the other one sort of had that round image with the round logo. It worked a little bit better if you were to use that, but again, I would not. And while I enjoy seeing Kermit here, and it goes really well with your being green can be easy headline, they would, unless they had an actual deal, licensed imagery, etc., they wouldn't put something outside of BMW in an image. While I particularly personally enjoy it, it's not something that they would generally use without permission or without probably paying a ton of money to Jim Henson. I would try, if you were to go with this one, I would try on both of these actually. Let me zoom out a little bit. You have a very sort of classic classic BMW thing here, a very, very good sort of BMW look. I would try adding in your model information. I would try having it a little bit bigger, maybe getting rid of some of the extra images might help, just so that it's not like a tiny thing in the corner, because this is what we're selling, right? So we're selling this brand new, in air quotes, this brand new model that's coming out, the active hybrid, so you want to really highlight that as well. So I feel like especially here, with the green theme, you want to make sure that people know exactly what it is, even if you kept this all just white space and had it, being green can be easy, maybe up top here, and then had like a little bit smaller your active hybrid information. And again, sort of similar to this, you could even have, your headline here, and then something about your active hybrid X6, somewhere else, to make sure that you really sort of explicitly know. You don't want to be super huge about it, but you want to be very explicit about what we're selling to people, right? So those would be sort of my takes on those. And as far as picking which one to do, I'm leaving it totally up to you guys. I'm going to give you feedback on both of them, and then you can revise, pick one to revise, and based on that feedback. And even like I said, if you had some feedback for this one, the top one here in particular, and you wanted to apply it to the bottom one, that's totally fine. Take this feedback and use it, how you see best for your assignment. But you're going to pick one of the layouts to revise. Just wanted to make sure that I made that clear. So I'm going to look at trunks here. We have two. And then for this one, and I'll say it for everybody too, what I would definitely make sure is you're setting up the file properly. I have the file size, all the sizes in the assignment description. So you have your bleed, your trim, and your safety. So here I don't necessarily see, I'm assuming that this is the trim, and just make sure that you have that safety showing, so I can see that you're well within. So like this might be coming a little bit close to the edge of that safety and might get cut off when it actually, in theory, prints and gets cut. So you want to make sure that you're showing that the trim, the bleed, and the safety area. So going on to trunks here. The imagery works very, very well. I'm just double checking the logo. We want to make sure that we're not, I know I said it in the video for sure, we want to make sure that we're not, I'll zoom in a little bit, that we're not cutting off any of the logo, which you can see we are here. I see what you were trying to do. You can tell it's a little bit off center in your frame here. You want to make sure that you're showing that whole logo. All of that white or black area in the image is actually part of the BMW logo. They set it up that way on purpose, so that it doesn't get cut off in any way. So you want that free space around that window. So that entire white box or black box, depending on what you're using, needs to show. I like this a lot. I would honestly reverse your headline and your info here. I like the way it's set up. I would almost have like make it yours, sort of larger up in the sort of headline area, or see where it, I see how you have it in the sort of sunspot there, which works pretty well. I would see how that works within that layout here. And then I would have, instead of the make it yours here, have that new active hybrid X6 here with that model information. And then just make sure, yeah, sorry, I was reading that. And I just make sure that everything is typeset properly. But yeah, I would have the model information here instead of up top. Have your headline and then your model information. Not secondary, because this is a large postcard, but you want to have that punchy headline. And just sort of like nitpicky, I would honestly not separate the X6. You want to make sure, again, that you're sort of repeating the active hybrid X6, not just the X6 here. But I like the way that this is laid out. You have excuse me, a little bit of information at the bottom right here. Honestly, I would just swap the headline and the model info. Reset this maybe a tiny bit to make sure that it reads well and it reads cleanly, and then make sure that we're seeing the entire logo with all of the white space available around the logo. And then going to this one, we have a little bit of a different look. Again, I would say the same thing with flipping that active hybrid X6 and then the your dream come true. Maybe having that swapped again. I like the addition of the detail shots. I feel like that works really well. It's placed pretty well. I might nudge them total. I might nudge them over to the right just a tiny bit. It's going to be like sort of clicking. I like how it's offset a little bit. You don't want it like dead center, but I see what you're doing. Or even, if you did the reverse here and had the 3 images, give or take, on that side, and then had your logo on this side, something like that. So you had a little bit more left to right reading order, things like that. But again, I would definitely swap the headline and the model number, the model name rather, in size and location as well. And then, again, just to make sure that we're showing showing your entire logo. As you can see here, you're cutting it off with the frame. And then again, with that safety, you want to make sure if your safety is give or take with your file is here, it has potential to get cut off when the print shifts. So you need to make sure that you're including that safety area within your document, so that you make sure that all of your important info is tucked inside of that safety area. Again, I like the use of the detail shots you have. I think the background shot works really well. Again, very sort of clean, classically BMW. Again, just some minor things with both of these to modify to make really good layouts that would be very good BMW layouts. Going on to Paul's, I did have an issue with, as you can see, it's hard to tell, obviously without the image that you used. I don't have it. It looks like you used images that were outside of the images provided. If they were, it looks like you maybe renamed them or something. The link shows up as being on your desktop, so obviously I don't have access to that. So if they were some of the images that were included in the assignment materials, you need to make sure that they're not linking from your desktop, that they're actually the images in that folder. So it's kind of hard to tell. But from what I do have, again, sort of in a similar way, I would, like Trung's, I would swap these. So you have your power never felt so clean, larger, like sort of the classic BMW ads, and the all new. I would change the date. I know the dates for my assignment description may not match up, but I would make it to 2020 or 2021, not 2010. That's nitpicky, but have that be a little bit smaller at the bottom, or swap them entirely. So you have the power never felt so clean large on the bottom, and then the active model number here. I like what you did with this area. Again, you want to make sure that this entire logo is tucked within that safe space. I like the addition of the BMW of Westbrook. Adding your own, adding your own. Why am I blanking? Dealership to the card. I didn't say not to do it, and honestly, what you did doesn't take away from the design. So I actually particularly enjoy it. I like how you used it as a design element as well. You had this graphic where it's just a simple stroke or simple shape to break that up a little bit. Again, it's sort of hard to tell with the without the images specifically, but again, I would have to the similar thing. Make your headline, and then the model maybe a little bit smaller, or even if you wanted to keep it about this size, if you have room with your image, make this definitely larger, like a for sure more on the nose headline for the BMW headline. And then again here you have, it looks like you have your logo tucked into that safe space. And then I like the sort of addition of creating that, which they often do, BMW often does, creating that sort of secondary informational area. I would honestly knock this whole thing, if I can do it without messing it up. Yep. I'm just using my Shift Select here to try to, grab all of this. I would honestly, this is sort of like a little bit nitpicky, but I would knock these all down just a little bit and give it that separation. You can see if you look at other BMW ads where they have this informational thing, they usually have a little bit more space in between the two boxes. So I don't mind that that use of the secondary informational box there. I would just give it a little bit more breathing room. And then again, just make sure I can see your background images. If you would like to resubmit them with the background images embedded or included, or let me know which background images you use, that would be helpful. And make sure that we're using the images provided in the assignment. You have two, decent, from what I can see, two decent layouts. I like the addition of this sort of informational, more graphic-oriented information area. And then you have this, the information area a little bit more classically BMW here with the two squares. It also works really well. Again, it's going to depend on what the images look like and how you use those images. And then lastly for now, we have Seth's here. Hopefully my fan isn't as loud as it is in the recording as it is in person. My fan's going crazy on my computer. So for this, I think you have a decent start for both of these. I would be careful with heavily modifying the images like this. BMW typically doesn't do that. I get what you did, and I appreciate the aesthetic that you're going for, but it's generally not really a classic BMW kind of thing that they do. So while I understand what you're doing and I appreciate it, I would kind of stick away from doing that. And again, because it's also using images that were not included in the assignment. I do find, I think your sizes for your document are a little bit off. Your bleed and trim and safety seem a little bit, it's kind of hard to tell, but your bleed, trim, and safety seem a little bit off. Like if this is your, if this is your bleed, and then this is your trim, and then that's your safety. These images are definitely within risk of getting trimmed off when they actually trim. So if you're going to butt things up directly to the trim, it's a little bit better now with digital printing and etc. But they're definitely within risk of getting cut off. So if you don't, how do I put this? If you don't mind it potentially getting cut off, then that's fine. I would actually push that then. So sort of push this effect, all the way to the bleed, and then have these be honestly a little bit bigger overall. Oops, but you get the idea. Have these be a little bit bigger overall, so that if it does get cut off, it's only cutting off a little bit, and then you have this sort of this graphic look, and then you can nudge everything over a little bit. As far as the text, I don't mind the headline. It's a little bit tricky to read with that drop shadow there. I might make it a lot bigger. Again, if you got rid of some of the extras here, some of the extra images, things like that, and you brought these, oops, I can select both of these here. If you brought them both over, as I'm not selecting both of them, if you brought them both over to this area here, give or take, and then you could make them both a little bit bigger. a little bit bigger so that they're a little bit easier to read with that drop shadow. I like the effect that you have going on with it. I think it works pretty well. Again, it's just a little bit hard to read, a little bit smaller than that. And again, watch your trim and bleed in your safety area. And then very, very specifically, do not do this with the logo. You need to have that entire logo, which is that white space or black space, depending on which logo you're using. So we're not clipping that round, the rondelle, as they call it. You're not clipping that out separately. You're using that entire black or white square is part of the logo. And then we have this one, which is a little bit more classically BMW. I was having trouble linking to I know I have this file. I was having a little bit of trouble linking to this file for some reason, so that's why it's a little bit pixelated. Again, you want to watch that logo, and you have your logo and the images outside of that safety area. So if you don't want this, especially the logo, if you don't want them potentially clipped when they trim, you want to make sure that they are not going to be trimmed. You want them in that safety area. I like the idea of, again, you have the sort of detail shots here. I would honestly zoom in a little bit on this one and have it a little bit bigger. It's like kind of like a postage stamp size there. It's a little bit hard to see, or use one of the interior details for it. It's a little bit odd that there are two different sizes, especially with the round. But if you go back to the square, the full logo, the square logo, having these be like three different sizes, unless they're sort of stepped. If you had the full BMW logo and then this shape and then this shape a little bit smaller. So if you had this sort of stepped look, I think it would work pretty well. And I would kind of separate this maybe, have your headline, more classically BMW, and you could have, your luxurious adventure begins today, and have that be, your headline. Even if you had it up top here and swapped the images and logo for down here, and then have, I would honestly, as far as like typesetting, I would honestly just start with, it all starts rather than and it all starts, because it's kind of like an incomplete sentence. Or unless you had an ellipsis, which was like the 3 dots. Your adventure begins today, ... and it starts with, and have it lowercase, so you're kind of continuing the sentence there. And make sure you have the full model, so it's the active hybrid X6, not just the X6. And again, same thing here. But with this one specifically, again, you want to make sure that you have the full logo, and I would work on those detail shots. Either make them the same size or similar, more similar in size, like these two, or if you're going to have the two different sizes, maybe play with that and have like three different sizes technically, and have them stepped. Like maybe use them as not just detail shots on the logo, but kind of try to use them as a graphic element as well. And then lastly, I would say with this overlay that you have here, make sure that this goes to the bleed, because again, if this gets trimmed, you run the risk of having this like awkward lighter space or lighter line around it. I honestly feel like it might be a little bit too dark. I see what you're doing to try to give yourself a little bit more of a, not solid, but a little bit more of a more clear background to put text on, is what I'm guessing. But I feel like it kind of muddies up the shot a little bit, where a client would not be so keen about that, to muddy up their shot. I would honestly use a combo maybe of even having it, undo what I did. If you wanted to have an area to where, to put your text in, you could make it a smaller area towards the bottom, and then I would use a bolder font, a sans serif, bolder, more BMW-ish font rather than a thinner serif font. I think that's where you're having trouble losing some of that, especially the drop shadow behind it. I would use, again, a little bit more bold sans serifed font rather than a serifed, thinner font. I think that would help a lot with this design. And again, it's up to you whichever design you guys go with. But I think overall, some decent work. There's, I wouldn't say major, but there's definitely some, I'm blanking on the words, but some critical things to address. with some of your designs and some of the logo usage, image usage, etc. But I think overall some nice work, and you guys have some pretty decent options to choose from for which one of these that you're going to revise. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to email me and let me know what your questions are. That's about it. I appreciate the designs that I've seen. I think they look very good, and look forward to seeing your revisions.